happening, everybody? Trey here, joined by my dad, Sean, and today, reactions to the classics. It is time for our 2010's decade draft right here. We're each going to pick 10 records a pop.
Yep.
You are getting first pick here, and then, I'll go boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, we just alternate.
Until we got 10 each. And man, we were talking about this, how the 2010's, one of the strongest decades ever, in my opinion, man. In so many different genres. Awesome decade.
Yeah, it absolutely shocked me how good this decade is, and we're gonna do a few videos when we're done with this series. We're gonna pick the best decades. Right? We're gonna rank them, and we're also gonna talk about our biggest surprises. So, spoiler alert: this how strong the 2010s is gonna be in contention for that. Pay attention. Let us know who you think won this. Leave it in the comments below. And leave your top albums from the decades if you like. We always like to see what the community thinks. And if you're a patron, I have nothing for you on this, but we appreciate you being a patron. Usually you get to vote in a live listening party, but some of these albums have already been featured in a live listening party. If you're not a patron, check out the link below or the link at the end screen. We greatly appreciate it, guys. The patrons keep this thing going. Trey and I record videos nearly every single day. There's a new vid up every single day. So Trey, you realize how good a decade is. I mean, you already referenced it. When you go to pick the top albums of the decade and you're like, man, there's like 3 or 4 albums that are in contention for number one, right? And you don't often get that. Sometimes, usually the number one's pretty clear, or 1 and 2. But if you watch the drafts, I had to go with my 2019 number one, Ghosteen, Cave's 17th studio album. It's all about the death of his son, Arthur, back in 2015. Ambient styles, not the over-the-top Cave. It's just, you just feel it, man. You're going to put on the headphones. You're going to get lost in it. You need to read the lyrics. You're not going to listen to it on repeat, I wouldn't think, but it is just a fantastic piece of art. It's the 6th highest rated album ever on Metacritic and highly recommended by me. But I'll tell you what, all these albums are highly recommended, Trey, and your number one pick is tremendous.
Yeah, and I know that is, one of your probably top 5, quality records of all time.
Yeah, it is. Ghosteen is. It is.
And my number one is in that regard as well. Kendrick Lamar's "To Pimp a Butterfly." Man, what can be said about this? It's been really cool too, as this came out in 2015, to just continue to see it top list and be in the discussion. It is a classic, an instant classic. I know some people are like, you got to have 15, 20 years before you call this a classic. I'm like, when something is a masterpiece or a classic, you're going to know pretty soon if it's like truly, truly up there. And, and I think "To Pimp a Butterfly" definitely fits that bill right there. Kendrick really not only on the lyrical side of things, touching on so many important topics and the African-American experience, but also just musically as well, touching on soul, funk, obviously hip hop, jazz. So creative, so boundary pushing, and man, one of the great albums to ever be recorded in my estimation.
Yeah, I mentioned Ghosteen is the number 6 highest rated album on Metacritic, but it's only second in this decade because "To Pimp a Butterfly" beat it. So that's how highly acclaimed. I had a really hard time with my second pick. You picked my other one that it was going against. I didn't know which one to pick, so Trey picked the other one. So it worked. You probably hadn't heard of this guy before, but Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City. Second album, 2 on the charts. Has never left the top 200 Billboard charts since it came out. 10 years. Absolutely amazing. Concept album, fantastic. Album of the year. Rolling Stone's number 1 concept album of all time. And you got to listen to all of it. And you got to give it some time, and you got to read the lyrics. You're not going to just casually listen to Kendrick Lamar. Yeah. You got to dive into it, but it is well worth it. And I know you absolutely love this album.
Yeah, this might be my favorite album of all time, actually. So I'm glad you chose it.
And we got an album review of it.
So and hey, that's why it's on the poster back here too, baby. Like I've been a fan of this since it initially dropped. I remember being in class, we were talking about when "Swimming Pools Drain" came out as a single, and people just getting excited for that. And it's one I can go on and boom, I'm transported back to being a junior in high school, rolling around in the 2001 Honda Accord, baby. Let's go.
Oh man, the death trap that it was. Now, what you said there, Trey, is interesting because it kind of shows everybody who's watching this. We don't pick our favorites. We try to be absolutely objective. You just said it was your favorite album of all time, but you didn't pick it number 1. It ends up going number 3 for me. So what do you got as your number 2, which would have been it's going back and forth.
Yeah, going with my beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, the masterpiece from Kanye West right here, his 5th record, coming off of the whole Taylor Swift incident, his self-exile, recorded in Hawaii, a who's who of producers.
And everybody thought that was the worst thing he could do. He was like,
if only, man. I would love to go back to that time and have that be the only thing I would worry about with Kanye, but man, you can't take away the quality of the music.
It's fantastic.
The amount of bangers on this: All the Lights, Power, Runaway, Devil in a New Dress.
Runaway, one of my top 15 songs of all time.
Gorgeous. I mean, this thing is like a greatest hits record, and man, it's another one that just no matter when you turn it on, it's like, yeah, this is an instant classic here. So,
there's no doubt.
And I think that's a opinion that a lot of people have. But some heavy hitters. I mean, you can't go wrong with either of our list, in my opinion.
No, and I mean, this whole list shows you mentioned this, it's so eclectic, like so many different genres. My 3rd pick, The National, High Violet, their 5th studio album. I think they're best, but I mean, it's Alligator, the Boxer. It's very close. 3 in U.S. They played it 100. They played one of the songs 105 times in a row at an art installation in New York. The song "Sorrow." I always think that's an interesting thing. "Terrible Love" and "Sorrow" are the fantastic ones off there. Matt Berringer, his vocals are very interesting, very baritone. Like, if you like it, you're going to like all their albums. If you don't like that quality of voice, you might as well not even listen to this. But they appear all over our drafts throughout their time. And I would say the best rock band of the 2000s. Wow. Hot take.
Yeah, no, they're definitely up there. Yeah, one of the great groups of the 21st century, I think, man. So, and the Boxer is probably my 2 favorites.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's good too.
Everything they released, I've enjoyed. Yeah. So my 3rd pick here, going with the legend Frank Ocean, Blonde. And at the time he was recording his 2nd record and his last released record. Hopefully we got another one coming up.
This man waits a little time between Channel Orange and this, and now it's like, I don't know.
This was the Pitchfork magazine album of the decade, and especially with people in my age range, they point to this record as being like, oh my, this is it. This is again another instant type of classic.
So different, like so many different things.
And Frank, very well versed musically. You have a big Brian Wilson type of influence on here. He lifts the melody from Here, There, and Everywhere by the Beatles, which is great. I mean, White Ferrari, Self Control, Solo, Pink and White, Nikes. I mean, so many just classic tracks from this decade, all on this record right here, and some cool skits as well. So love me some Blonde and some Frank Ocean in general.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not of your age group, Trey, but I love that album. I thought it was fantastic. I just listened to it for the album drafts. I'd never listened to it before. All right, well, we finally got where I thieved something from you. Lorde, Melodrama, her 2nd album. Number 1, initially, it went to number 1, initially inspired by her disillusionment with fame. She wrote it to capture the heartbreak and solitude after her first breakup, so she kind of withdrew into herself. And that kind of let melodrama, like it's what it's named for. But she says it's not just a breakup album, it's a record about being alone. And it's fantastic. And you actually took it overall number 1.
I did.
And in that year, and that surprised me a little bit because you had some of your favorite artists in that year. But
this is one of my favorite just pop records.
Yeah, it's just so well done.
Like a fully pop,
No, but it's just so good. So I had to steal that from you for my 4th pick.
No, I like that, man, and kind of went with a bit of a personal pick right here. We have a post-hardcore band, La Disputes, Wildlife, their 3rd record. I actually saw this performed in full for its 10-year anniversary tour recently, and Jordan Dwyer, the lyricist here, is just on fire, and the guitar tones and the rhythm section for La Dispute are absolutely fantastic. A lot of references to their Grand Rapids, Minnesota area as well, and just I mean, this is not a light listen either. Listen to King Park, Edward Benz 27 times, describing the stabbing of a man 27 times. A lot of touching on like cancer and all this heartbreak and all this stuff, and yet it's a beautiful record that I think deserves a little more shine. So that's why I chose it as high as I did.
All right, well, my next pick, Trey, Jason Isbell, Southeastern's 4th studio album, recorded after a stint in rehab. Now, he'd been in rehab before. This is the last time he finally kicked it. Got divorced, got remarried. There's a lot of stuff going on in his life. Recorded almost all the vocals live in one take. He just went in and laid it down, and you can feel it. This is a very raw album that is just fantastic. Cover Me Up is great, and then the song Elephant, which is about cancer, is unbelievably powerful. But I'm a big fan of Jason Isbell, and this is his masterpiece.
Yeah, man, I love that record as well. Wouldn't not quite as much included on a list, but I think it's definitely deserving of being on a list like this. And kind of keeping in the same vein, I'm going with Mark Kozelek's Sun Kil Moon moniker, Benji here, his sixth record. And a lot of it on here, if you're familiar with the Red House Painters work from Kozelek in the 90s, he's one of the I'd say one of the great songwriters and lyricists of all time. I'd say I'd go that far.
Because I've run his entire catalog. His stuff ends up on a ton of my lists. Yeah. Like, he's fantastic.
He quoted about this saying, "Things get heavier as you get older. At 47, I can't write from the perspective of a 25-year-old anymore. My life has changed too much and my environment around me." And, this record starts off with Carissa talking about a second cousin who died. And just, powerful. And it just continues to go on from there. And ends talking about Ben's my best friend, Ben Gibbard of Death Cab for Cutie. And so a very personal record, and yet there's relatability to it as well, which is a very tough line to kind of draw at times, but shout out to Benji right there.
For sure. And I don't know, did you choose that or did I in that album?
I chose it first. Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. In my head, I did. All right. Next up, you've heard these guys already. Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Skeleton Tree. It's the album right before Ghosting. That was my number one pick. Their 16th studio album. Recorded over 18 months. Nick's son, Arthur, had already died, but he'd written all the songs. But what he did is he kind of, I don't say ad-lib, but he just kind of changed them up a little bit. Never mentions it like directly, but a lot of the songs have that somber.
Read between the lines.
Yes, exactly. Only 8 songs in 39 minutes, 95 on Metacritic, and just fantastic, man. It's just slightly below Ghosteen for me.
All right, man. Yeah, I'm a big fan of that. I Need You, one of Nick Cave's best songs, in my opinion. And I'm going to go with one of my favorite groups here as my next pick. Radiohead's A Moon-Shaped Pool, their 9th and maybe final record ever. We don't know. We don't know. But, man, the production on this is fantastic. I don't know. I categorize this as like an art rock, chamber rock type of record. The string arrangements on these songs by Johnny Greenwood and the London Contemporary Orchestra are just fantastic. Some of my favorite Radiohead songs are on here, like Daydreaming, True Love Waits as the closer. Man, ooh, heartbreaking right here. Really think this one's fantastic and can see it rising up in my Radiohead rankings the more time I spend with it.
All right, next up, Sufjan Stevens, his masterpiece Carrie and Lowell, his 7th studio album.
We're hitting the sad boy feels on our recent picks.
We are, and for him it's different because it has really sparse instrumentation. He's not really bringing in all the stuff that he usually does. And his mom was Carrie, and Lowell is his stepdad, his mom's second husband. And so when Carrie died, Lowell stepped up. They co-founded the Asthmatic Kitty album or company together, a record label is what I'm trying to say for Sufjan. 90 on Metacritic. Whole album is great, but as you said, Trey, it's got those painful vibes, man, which a lot of these have, and I think the pattern holds up a little bit because the best songwriting, I think, is when someone's vulnerable, transparent, and emotional.
Oh, 100%.
When you write those songs about yourself, that's why if you're an artist that doesn't write your own songs, that's fine, but you do lose something in there because you can't create the kind of emotion that this or Ghosteen brings out or your Law to Speed Up. Like, you can't recreate it.
No, I think that's an excellent point, and I'm a big fan. That's my favorite Sufjan record, if I had to say. I was gonna pick it in this ballpark,
but instead you decided to be a thief.
I'm taking the Hotelier home like no place is there. I listened to this back when it released in 2014. Loved it then, still love it now, almost a decade later, right? And it's I guess categorize it as like an emo rock punkish type of record, so a lot of high energy on this, but again, kind of touches on Tough Experience. I know Your Deep Rest is one of your favorite songs on here.
Fantastic, man.
I also love An Introduction to the Album, one of my favorites from them. So really impressive record from a band that just kind of disappeared. But hey, we always have this record, so.
That is right. So we got 3 picks left. I got Jeff Rosenstock, Worry. He's all over our album drafts for this decade, but this is his second studio album. 17 songs, 37 minutes, most critically acclaimed album. USA Today Album of the Year, which shocked me that it, even though it's great, you don't really see that. Festival song's great. It's really about urban gentrification. If you don't know what that is, it's taking an old area and tearing everything down and building a bunch of new stuff, which sometimes is great for the area, and sometimes it strips a city of all their character whatsoever. It can go both ways. But Rosenstock, man, a guy I didn't really know anything about till we got into these drafts, and fantastic.
Yeah, and I love that second side where he lifts from the Beatles, kind of Abbey Road second side, where it's just a lot of short segments that just, boom, go one to the other. So a good pick right there. And I'm going to go now with Igor from Tyler, the Creator, his fifth record. Again, produced entirely by Tyler here, kind of, I think, the peak of his maturation as an artist and as a lyricist. A bit of a concept record talking about a love triangle between Tyler and a man, and then the man and his girlfriend. So really cool to kind of see that unfold throughout here. Quite theatrical, and just a really strong piece of work. I know it was only released a few years ago, but I can see this one continue to be in the discussion of, best albums of the decade, or this century, as the years kind of pile up.
All right, well, my next to the last pick. You might have heard him on here before. He's taking his third spot on here. Kendrick Lamar, Damn, fourth studio album. Became the first non-jazz or classical album to be given the Pulitzer Prize for music. So think about that. That's how I told you earlier on Good Kid, Mad City. You got to listen. You got to pay attention to the lyrics, and it's repeated listens, and that tells you as much as you ever need to know about it. Debuted at #1, Metacritic 95. I mean, everybody who really digs in loves it.
Oh yeah.
Highlights Triple X, which features U2. Of all people, won Best Rap Album. So even though this album is so highly acclaimed, it's definitely third for me, as I know it is for you, I'm assuming. I don't know about his 2022. I haven't
it's probably fourth now after his recent record, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. But
which I haven't listened to, but I am for 2022. But because I was kind of surprised you hadn't taken it yet, Trey. But hey, I got 2 K-Dots on my list.
No, man, I love it, and I love that you picked it. I would have definitely nabbed it.
You would have got it in here
before the list, because I think Kendrick definitely has a claim to being the best artist of the 2010s, from his debut record, Good Kid, Mad City, to Pimp a Butterfly, the Black Panther soundtrack as well, being the curator of that. So I think when you look at all that plus his features, he's got to be in contention.
He's
on the short list.
He's on the very short list.
And then going next to a guy who is one of my favorites, Kanye West. Yeezus, his sixth record right here. Definitely a big left turn from Kanye, coming off of My Beautiful Dark Twisted
You got
Fantasy.
that right.
I know, his most divisive record as well. I know you're not a huge fan of it.
I'm not, man, and I'm a huge fan of his first 5 albums, right? I'm a huge fan of them, but then for me, his quality drops somewhat. Not horrible, but it drops.
Yeah, and to me, this might be my second or third favorite Ye record, because.
But I only listened to it once.
It's it is abrasive, the industrial electronic, even some of the UK drill stuff that was big in this decade also makes an appearance right here. Rick Rubin on production, on site. The opener is great. You have maybe one of Kanye's best tracks, and New Slaves, Hold My Liquor, Bound To. And Black Skinhead, which unfortunately takes a bit of a different meaning here in 2022. But big fan of this record.
Well, one thing you got to say about Kanye too, you got to give him credit for, is he never rests on his laurels. His albums are always totally different. I mean, they're so different and differentiated. My last pick, it's always tough, Trey, because there were so many good albums had to be left off. So when you get to that 10th pick, boys and girls, you're like, golly, this is important, because then all these other albums that are great are going to get left off. But I went with someone who's been all over my list for the 2010s and will be as we get into the 20s as well. Lana Del Rey, Norman F. Rockwell, 6th studio album. Her best record, 87 on Metacritic, perfect scores for some people. And I just think her best overall record. But I know she's hit or miss for you on a lot of her records. She's pretty much hit for me on all her albums except for one. And I just thought this was her best one. And it's not a cumulative pick. It deserves to be here, but she also deserved to be on my list, if that makes sense.
No, I like the reasoning there. And my final pick is going to be one of the great rock albums of the decade. Good. Brand New's final record, science fiction. Not the easiest thing to search, maybe Brand New science fiction. But
I never thought about that. Yes.
But their first album in 8 years, coming off of Daisy, went to #1. Their only #1 record right here, and shortly after the band called it quits. But again, really kind of culminates the sound that Brand New had, and you got everything from some great like acoustic little tracks to some very heavy thematic type of songs in here as well. Ben Accardi, the guitarist, does some blistering solos and just some great kind of cathartic releases in these choruses as well. So,
and I never listened to a Brand New album, and I listened to all of them for this draft. And I know they're one of your favorite bands of all time. And a great discovery for me. They are absolutely fantastic. I had actually picked that, even though that's one. And you saw their last concert
ever
that they ever performed.
Yeah, man.
So that wraps it up. But I got to tell you, man, this old guy going into the 2010s was like, man, all the music sucks from the last decade, this and that. You get into this thing, man, you just got to dig a little bit deep. Some of these you don't have to dig too deep, but I just haven't listened to them. I mean, just an unbelievable decade, man.
Oh, 100%, man. And I think that music is still in a good place, like quality wise. It might not be the top 40, because
it's not.
I got to be honest. There's a lot of top 40 stuff that's incredibly hit and miss for me, right? And especially nowadays too, with the way the charts work, so few artists dominate the entire track. You release a record with 15 songs, 10 of them, if you're like a superstar, will end up on that top 100.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
I think that also kind of skews some people of, I don't like Drake, or I don't like Future, I don't like Taylor Swift.
Right. So you're like, okay. But I totally agree. You just got to mine a little bit deeper. But that's the beauty of digital music nowadays. You can find those things. Go look for critics list. Go look for a Metacritic or cumulative critics list. See the best albums and go listen to those. Those are usually going to guide you the right way. When all the critics like something, it usually is pretty good, I found.
Yeah. So let us know, like we said, your favorites from the 2010s. And man, it's been a fun journey. You can check out all our album drafts as well, going all the way back to the year 1965. But I guess that'll wrap it up from here today. So until next time, thanks for watching, y'all. Happy listening, and we will see you.